All right. Hello, everyone. It looks like we have some more practice with equilibrium graphs today. So what I want to do with this video is I want to set up a standard way of drawing equilibrium graphs. You need to make sure that you're doing these methodically, which means doing it the same way every single time. So I'm about to draw some ugly equilibrium graphs. But follow this method and you'll always be doing them right. So the first thing that we should always start out when we're drawing an equilibrium graph is with the little L thing. Label our axes, and then draw the demand curve followed by the supply curve. Next thing you'll want to do is label your equilibrium point. So I've labeled it E1. Label your price at PE1. And label your equilibrium quantity QE1. Good so far? Fantastic. Now, the next thing we want to do is we want to figure out what's going to happen to equilibrium when one of the curves shifts. So everything's labeled now, everything's good. Don't forget to add a title up here. You should always tell us what your product is. So you should always put a title up at the top. Now let's say for some reason that the supply curve increases. Here's our new supply curve. You'll see that it shifted to the right. And you will know that anytime a curve shifts to the right, it is an increase. So we have an increase in supply. Now at this point, nothing else in the market has happened. There's been an increase in supply, so everyone's a little bit shocked by it. Takes a minute to react. But there is an increase in the quantities supplied to the market. So you're going to have quantity supplied here. So we take the same old price, carry it over to the new curve. This old curve does not exist anymore. We are only on this new supply curve. However, we still do only have one demand curve, and it's this curve right here. And so this point still exists. Price 1 still has a point on the demand curve. So we're going to go ahead and cross this out and call it quantity demanded 1. Now there will be an inequality in the market. It's right there. But before we get there, let's continue describing some stuff. Right here, this was caused by one of the determinants of supply. We have a new demand curve because of the determinants of supply. Now, on a real example where we have headlines and things are shifting and doing everything that they do, based on the headline, you'll tell me what happened to the curve because of a specific determinant. But we don't have a headline here. I'm just giving you a quick example. So now we need to figure out what kind of inequality we have in the market. So you'll see the quantity supplied 1 is right here, and quantity demanded 1 is right here. So we see that we have more quantity supplied than quantity demanded, which would mean we have a surplus. So over here on the side, we're going to write that we have a surplus because of our increase in supply. Increase in supply caused a surplus. And so now we have to try and figure out what do we do to get rid of this surplus. Now the market automatically wants to go to equilibrium. We're not at equilibrium. The new equilibrium is right here, this big giant dot. We're going to call that E2. And now we're going to make some labels. This right here is price at equilibrium 2. And this right here is the quantity at equilibrium 2. So the first thing that we want to look at is what happened to price. Price started at 1 and went to 2. So based on my arrow, we had a decrease in price. Next, we want to figure out quantity supplied. Quantity supplied is right here. It wants to get to equilibrium 2. It shifted to the left. So we had a decrease in quantity supplied. Now you'll look at this and you'll be thinking, that looks just like the law of supply. As price decreases, so does quantity supplied. Fantastic. That means we're on the right track. And then the last thing we need to figure out is what happened to quantity demanded. Quantity demanded is right here. It goes that way, which is a shift to the right, which means we have an increase. Anytime something goes to the right, it's an increase. So we have an increase in quantity demanded. And that's how you do this step by step. So if you take your time to draw the graph and go through these steps over here, while you're drawing the graph, things should turn out all right. So let's go ahead and do an example from the classwork that you're going to get in class on Tuesday. So here is the very first part of the handout you will get tomorrow. You'll see that it has the directions and an example. So for the directions, you're going to draw an equilibrium graph for each product showing all labels, what happens to the graph because of the headlines, and make sure that you include increase or decrease in supply, demand, determinant, price, shortage, surplus, quantity supplied, and quantity demanded. And then what happens to equilibrium. So show all of this on the graph. Also write the little stuff to the right, the little column stuff. So the first product that we're going to work with is Taco Bell tacos. I saw today that there was a lovely little headline for Taco Bell tacos. In that headline, this is the real deal. This is a real headline. Taco Bell pulls beef from some stores on quality concerns. So that's going to be a big giant issue. So let us go back and draw a graph. So the first thing that we're going to want to do, of course, is give ourselves a little title. Taco Bell tacos. There we go. That's our title for the graph. And now let us start drawing the graph. We've got our price and our quantity. You'll see it looks just like our last graph. We've got supply. We've got demand. We know equilibrium is right here. We're going to label that E1, and then PE1, and QE1. Oh, that is ugly. QE1. All right, so the headline is Taco Bell pulls tacos because of beef issues. So you might be thinking it's supply or demand. My thinking on this one is it's a decrease in supply because the headline itself says that they have stopped supplying them. So I'm going to draw my decreased supply curve. It's going to look just like that. So for number 1, I will write decrease in supply. The second thing that I want you to do is I want you to tell me which of the determinants of supply this would be. So this would be a great time to go back and look at your notes and try to figure out which of the determinants of supply this would best fit into. So at this point, I'm pretty sure you've gone back, looked at the determinants of supply, and decided this definitely looks like producer expectations. We expect, as producers, that people are going to either get sick or not enjoy these tacos. So we probably should stop supplying them. So we're going to say that this is producer expectations. Now, third, will this cause a shortage or a surplus? Well, to do that, we have to figure out what happened to quantity supplied and quantity demanded before price changed. Because we want to get up here to equilibrium, but we're not there yet. We're still right here at price 1. And you'll see that this black dot that I just drew is on the new supply curve. So that's going to be quantity supplied 1, because it's quantity supplied at price 1. So if this is quantity supplied, then that means this right here has to be quantity demanded. So we're going to change this to a little d. Now it's quantity demanded. Let me erase that. That's kind of ugly. So now we're at quantity demanded 1. So this was QE1. It is now QD1 because this supply curve right here no longer exists. We're just on this demand curve and this supply curve now. So we have demand here and quantity supplied here. Creates an inefficiency in the market. And that inefficiency, more demand than supply, that's going to be called a shortage. So we're short on this one. So number 3 creates a shortage. So now we're at number 4, where we have to figure out what happens to price and the equilibrium point, so quantity supplied and quantity demanded. And so we have right here equilibrium 2, labeled E2. So price at equilibrium 2 and quantity at equilibrium 2. So the first thing we want to know is what happened to price. We were at price 1, we went to price 2, so we have a little increase. We've got an increase in price. Next, we want to figure out what happened to quantity supplied. We started here, we go to here. So that's movement to the right, so that's going to be an increase in quantity supplied. Next is what happened to quantity demanded. It starts here and wants to go to equilibrium, so it shifts to the left. And we all know that a shift to the left is always a decrease. So we have a decrease in quantity demanded. So this is the answer to question number 1 on your handout for today. So if you watched this video, congratulations, you just got the answer.